Hey, yo, what's up, babies? Alright, boys, this is my channel. I'm gonna do some writing. Oh, are we gonna do some writing? My cat has joined us. I'm not gonna fuss with the camera today, because I'm tired and lazy. But trust me when I say my cat is here. She's here, snuggling up. Because she and I both agree that the world is a cold, cold place. And if you have someone to share some body heat with, then that's just that's just a little bit better than not having that. Hope everybody's having a good day. I'm tired today. I am having, yeah, you ever have those days where it's like not really a reason to be tired, you just are? One of those days. Although I suppose maybe I've got reasons to be tired. I am just over a week out from my fight, and I've been hitting the diet and the training hard to make sure I've got the last bits of preparation going, and it's been a really good week of working on all that stuff, but that also means it's been a week of making myself tired. So I am looking forward to when I can go to bed tonight. Nah, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. It's that final push. It's the final push, basically a week left, and then I go compete, and then I'm free. And so there's just a lot of that sort of natural stress and anxiety that comes with all of these things. You know, you really can't avoid it. There's no way to avoid having any sort of stress or anything at all, you know, when you've got a big competition coming up. It's like, I've been recognizing the feelings of it as being very similar to back in my grad school days when I would have big tests coming up or something like that. You know, like a big practical exam. You know, that's the kind of feeling that I've got these days, prepping for this fight, where it's like, you know, the thing is looming, you can feel it coming closer, and you know that you've shown up to class and you've done everything you're supposed to do, so you know that logically there's nothing really for you to worry about. You just got to get in there and perform. But with all this time leading up to it, you end up with just sort of that constant feedback loop in your own brain of like, well, is there something more I should do to prepare? You know, am I as prepared as I think I am? What if I did this? You know, what if I did this? What if I did that? And you're running those cycles through your brain, those loops and scenarios over and over again, you know, and then you try to take some time off, and your brain immediately is like, what are you doing? Why are you taking time off right now? Like, we got a big thing coming up. Why are we just relaxing right now? We should be doing the opposite of relaxing. We should be freaking out and working super mega extra hard to make sure we're prepared. You know, and I feel like perhaps there's a little bit extra involved in that sort of crazy level of hyper awareness and anxiety coming in too, because the fact is even though on a conscious level I'm comfortable with it and I train it all the time, the fact is I'm going to be stepping into a ring in which I will be willfully allowing some random stranger to try and hit me in the face. And granted, the trade-off with that, I apologize, I'm putting some hand lotion on. My hands are dry as can be right now. But the trade-off is that I get to try and do the same to them. And like I say, I trust my training and everything, but I think if you're, okay, kitty, see you later. I think if you're a sane person, there's not a whole lot. You can see her tail. Got her tail right there. Goofball. Okay, there she goes. But yeah, if you're a normal, sane person, there's really no avoiding the anxiety that comes with preparing for a fight and then competing in a fighting, you know, a martial art, a combat sport. There's no avoiding that anxiety, because fact is if you're a normal, sane human being, you have a fight or flight response, right? And like, if you know there's a fight coming up, it's just like you're kind of always at a low grade level of that until it's done. So all of that to say, I'm tired today. And it's the kind of tired that might be hard for me to avoid until, you know, until like, what is it? It's going to be like 10 days from now when the fight is over, because the fight's in like 9 days. a week from this coming Saturday. So, you know, if it's 7 days from Saturday, you know, 8 from Friday, 9 from Thursday, which is today. So 9 days away. So in 10 days, the stress will be gone. And that's what I'm most excited about. Like, the fight's going to be good. I am, there is a very real part of me that's very excited about it. Very ready to go in there, test myself, you know, test everything that I've learned, prove that I've got what it takes to step in the ring. You know, to me, that's the victory, is just getting into the ring. I'm not even that concerned about win or lose, beyond the fact that if I'm going to lose, I'd rather it be by points than by getting my ass completely beat. But you never know, right? It's not just up to me, it's up to my opponent and how well they prepare. But like, there's a lot of excitement about that, a lot of excitement to accomplish this goal, achieve this goal I set for myself this year, to have this fight. So it's gonna be good. I'm really excited about it. But the thing I'm most excited about is just eating after the fight, because I've been monitoring my diet tightly for like 3 or 4 weeks now. I mean, I've been ratcheting it up a little bit, and this week's been the tightest of all of the weeks, to try and just like shave off those extra, you know, an extra 1 or 2 pounds, you know, a bit more gradually for the sake of easily making weigh-ins. And yeah, so we're at the point now where it's like I've been eating clean, eating light for a couple weeks now, and oh man, I'm ready to just snarf down an entire pizza in a single sitting. Like, oh man, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I got plans the day after the fight. I'm going out and getting the biggest breakfast that I can find, right? We're gonna go to a place that has amazing like omelets and pancakes, and I'm gonna get everything on the menu, and I'm just gonna go nuts, and it's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a good day regardless of how the fight goes. I'm so excited about it. But hey, me sitting here obsessing over it and freaking out about it is certainly not going to do a whole lot to help the anxiety. So let's go ahead and distract myself with a little bit of writing. Let me switch this over here. There we go. So, man, this project is definitely, like, I've always had fun with this project, but lately this project has been just like the perfect thing for me. Probably because of all of that, you know, stuff going on elsewhere in my life. And I think the reason is because there's nothing exceptionally complex about this one. You know, it's a fun, creative project, but one where I can really just kind of approach it pretty passively, right? Like, I don't need to try and keep too many things in mind. You know, I don't have to try and wing anything, really, because I've got my little template here, and we just kind of get to creatively fill in the blanks for this one. It's like a magic item Mad Lib, with it having everything planned out. And I don't know, there's something soothing and meditative about it that I really, really like. And so I've been really enjoying this project of making runes. For anyone who hasn't seen me do this project before, it's a project where I'm taking all of the spells in, you know, D&D 5th edition, and I'm turning them into some form of rune that can be put onto an item, whether it's, you know, armor or a weapon or just a random object or anything like that. Kind of depends on the nature of the spell and how we turn it into a rune. But I'm basically creating a big giant book of runes that can be given to players so that they can use that to get better weapons and sort of like creatively build and search out, you know, whatever weapon they want, as opposed to just like hoping they find a +1 axe of axing or whatever, right? Like, this gives them a way to customize and personalize their items, which I'm a huge fan of. And one of the reasons that I'm a huge fan of it is because I know a lot of players, when they create a new character, they put a lot of heart, you know, a lot of heart and soul, time and tender loving care into these characters and their histories. And oftentimes, because they're adventurers, that includes a very personal touch in terms of their weapons and what they like to use, their armor, their shields, whatever, right? You know, people do a lot of history to their shields. You know, or their items in general. You know, maybe it is a shield that they themselves forged as part of a coming of age thing in their culture, right? Or maybe the sword was passed down from ancestor to ancestor, you know, until it reached them. Like, players will make these creative items, and I always think it's a shame that in order to get cooler items, they kind of have to ditch all that stuff. And I don't know, I just think it's a shame. So instead, you know, I'm kind of trying to make my own version of a rune system that you can find in like Pathfinder and stuff for D&D, and incorporating that in my games so players can, you know, just have a lot more fun with their stuff. And so, you know, in the name of doing that, we're just kind of slowly, bit by bit, taking whatever time it takes, going through and one spell at a time, turning it into an imbibement. So that way, you know, especially too, it's really fun because because like a magic user can also use weapons, right? They can get some feats and they can use skill upgrades to also be able to use weapons, right? So it's like a spellcaster can kind of do everything, though they definitely have their own specialties and strengths that are tailored more towards being a spellcaster. But I always think that's such a bummer when that means that, you know, a sword user, you know, a fighter or whatever, can't really use spells. You know, it's like, well, yeah, if they put some of their energies towards being magic, like I suppose they could multi-class. Anyone can multi-class, but it just seems to me like it'd be really fun for there to be a good system for someone to be able to have a very devoted fighter who also is able to use a little bit of magic through the items they use. You know, and so this just kind of helps expand that a little bit and makes it more all-inclusive, right? And that to me is a wonderfully fun thing. I love doing that. So that's what this project is. And we've been working on our Abjuration School of Magic, going through just one spell at a time. And so I pulled up D&D Beyond here, and I'm just gonna have us continue on with this project because it's fun. We're working on our second level spells. And looks like our last one, I think I saw, was Lesser Restoration. Restoration, if you will. Yeah, so the last one was Lesser Restoration. God, that's a tough one for my mouth to say. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one. I feel like there are just certain sounds that my mouth just is not structured to say well. Structure is kind of one of them too, right? Enunciation just gets kind of hard with some words depending on the way your mouth works and shapes and how big your tongue is sitting there in your mouth and how big your teeth are and all that stuff. I don't know. Random unconnected thought to anything. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, I guess. All right. Yeah, so let's do Pass Without a Trace. It's gonna be Pass Without a Trace. Let's just go ahead and get our Pass Without a Trace. Now, my immediate thought is Path. Now I got myself all psyched out, and I'm not gonna pronounce anything correctly. Just gonna sound like a big old, like I got a big old slug sitting in my mouth. Real good television. Guy literally babbling on stream. Quality entertainment. That's what everyone's here for. That's what all y'alls are here for. I know it. You know it. We all know it. Okay. So I suspect this one's gonna be really tailored towards being put on clothing, or items you wear, particularly shoes. I do like the idea of actually socks of Pass Without a Trace. So it's like as long as you ditch your shoes, you can just like move quietly in your socks, because we can all move quietly in our socks, right? That's why we sneak to the kitchen in the middle of the night in our socks, not in like our boots. But a veil of shadows and silence radiates from you, masking you and your companions from detection. For the duration, each creature you choose within 30 feet of you, including you, has a +10 bonus to dexterity, stealth, checks, and can't be tracked except by magical means. A creature that receives this bonus leaves behind no tracks or other traces of its passage. It's going to be real easy. And it absolutely is going to go on clothing. So this is gonna, we'll put it, I have it like listed as on armor, but it really is kind of just meant to be on clothing. So let's just go ahead and paste that. Paste it in 1 second. Always a million things to have to juggle, right? All right, there we go. All right, clear that out. Clear that out. Add a bullet point. There we go. Now it's formatted exactly the way I like it. Exactly how I like it. All right, a veil of shadows and silence. Okay, so first off, we got to add our little qualifiers here. So once per day, when the command word is spoken and the item is worn, a veil of shadows and silence radiates from you. Masking radiates from, well, I'm going to say from the article of clothing, right? That's where it radiates from, which is functionally whoever's wearing it, but it's an important distinction, right? It's a distinction. Because I think that the idea, like, I think it would be fun if players were to, like, have a gauntlet, right? Like a glove, a gauntlet of pass without a trace or whatever. And it's like they activate the thing and you have, you know, the amount of time that you need for it. And, like, if you're trying to sneak past a hallway, it's like you can sneak through the hallway, take it off, and pass it to another guy, right? And it's like the thing is still connected to the item, right? So, like, it kind of gives players some room for creativity if we make these, like, slight differences to the way it's set up. And so I'm a big fan of doing it that way. Today when the command in your companions from detection. And the one thing that I've started to think here is I'm going to start also, I'm not going to worry about trying to go back and change everything. But the other thing that I want to start doing is, there's the casting time and then there's the duration. I want to start incorporating the duration into these descriptions just to make sure that's clear too. I mean, the idea is that it defaults to what the spell is. So it's for 1 hour. But it's never a bad idea to just add that extra little bit of clarity. It makes things a bit quicker if you have all of your notes in one little place, right? Which is why I do all of my note taking in OneNote, and why I'll even sometimes, this is something, like, I've done this before, where when I'm running a module for players, instead of running homebrew stuff, if players are running a module, I will turn my writing process basically into like incorporating that module into my world. So that way it's all part of my notes. So I'm gonna have all of my notes in one place. Hey, Lady Ishka, how's it going? Good to see you here. But yeah, I always, it never hurts to have more information rather than less. So putting the duration in there, even though it's supposed to default to the spell, is not a bad idea. And I'm actually kind of surprised it's taken me this long to actually start doing it, just because of how obsessive I am about keeping my notes exactly the way I like them. But yeah, so once per day, when the command word is spoken and the item is worn, Veil of Shadows and Silence radiates from the article of clothing for 1 hour, masking you and your companions from detection. For the duration, each creature you choose within 30 feet of you, including you, has a +10 bonus to dexterity, stealth checks, and can't be tracked except by magical means. Creature that receives this bonus leaves behind no tracks or other traces of its passage. There's one thing that I want to change about this, and it's because you're invoking an item that's going to be, like, because you're activating an item that's going to be invoking the spell rather than you actively consciously doing anything, right? It's like you put it in, we're putting in the conscious effort to activate it, but then because the magic is imbued on an item, it's not like you need to necessarily keep concentration. So because of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say each creature, and I'm going to take out the you choose, and it's going to become within 30 feet of you, including you, has a +10 bonus to dexterity, and can't be tracked except by magical means. And that does change the nature of it a little bit, right? Because if you're within 30 feet of an enemy that you're trying to sneak by, they also get the benefits of this, which may or may not be anything, right? Because if the enemy doesn't do anything to warrant a stealth check, you know, then they don't do anything. And while it does mean that you can't track them by means other than magical means, you know, they still can't track you because you're still under the effects of it. Like, I would say anyone under the effect can't be tracked except by magical means by anyone for any reason, right? So, like, I always imagine that Pass Without a Trace, it's, like, important for a group that's using it to discuss the pathway beforehand because none of them can be tracked, right? That's the idea. It's not like all of them are the exception to it for each other. No, it's just it impacts each person, right, that you're concentrating on, or in this case, each person within that bubble. So it does make it so that you can't track an enemy, but it also means that that enemy cannot track you. So, and I think that that's kind of, you know, maybe a reasonable trade-off, considering that we're talking about the magic also being connected to the item so that you don't have to, you know, invoke concentration or anything like that, and you can, in theory, activate it, and like I say, you could, in theory, pass the article of clothing around, right? So it's like you sneak down the hallway, and then, you know, just like toss whatever shoe or whatever that you have on that's doing it, and the person catches it, puts it on, and then they do theirs. And so you could, in theory, kind of take advantage of it that way, but then the flip side of it is there are some drawbacks to doing it this way as opposed to just having someone who can cast the spell. So I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with these changes. I think all things considered, it remains pretty well balanced to do it this way. So that's great. That's great. These receives the bonus. These behind no tracks. Other chases of his passage. Perfect. Yep. Cool. That's really simple. That's really simple. Let's do just like an example item of this. Of this imbued nature. So I kind of want to do. I kind of want to just like create an item called like sneaking shoes. Something like that. It's like it almost sounds like a kid's gag gift. Wow, sneaking shoes. Don't wake up your parents when you're sneaking down to the fridge for a snack. Sneaking shoes. Wow. Like a 90s commercial. God, I'd buy those so fast. They could just like magically let me sneak around. I would put them on. You know what I would do? It lasts an hour. I would put those on, and I would 100% use that to get a workout in my apartment, so that way I don't piss off my downstairs neighbors, right? Like masking you and your companions from detection, right? So they wouldn't be able to detect all of my foot stomps and everything. So I could run around, I could do jumping jacks, I could get a good in-apartment workout. I could, oh man, I could get, well, okay, no, here's the question. Would it work? Like if I had shoes of sneaking, if I had them sneaking shoes that cast that, and I ran on a treadmill, would I still be silent, or would it not impact the treadmill? So whatever vibrations and stomps are coming from the treadmill, even though they would be caused by me, because like the noise is coming from me, would be gone. But so it's like, does that count? I feel like you would hear the treadmill running, so like you would be able to hear the like of the treadmill going, but you wouldn't hear my footsteps. So it'd be just like a low hum, like if I had a vacuum cleaner going or something. I think that's probably what would happen. So as long as you had a quiet enough treadmill, you could probably get away with it. Probably get away with it. I'd try it. So that way I don't irritate my downstairs neighbors. Not because I care about them, just because I don't want to get kicked out of my apartment for having too many noise violations. Screw those guys downstairs. Now that's mean. They're nice people. Alright. So sneaking shoes. So if we're gonna follow my usual my self-imposed rules and standards of this. So this is a level 2 spell that we're turning into an imbibement, right? So it's a specialist equipment. Items are things commonly used by specialists, you know, like a healing item for a town doctor or a sailing item for a ship captain are good examples. They aren't especially rare, but they are items that would be too expensive for an average person to buy. More of a business investment that might be sold with a business should someone wish to retire. Can be found on the shelves of specialty stores. No special names, might be produced in bulk, but the batch, I mean, Sneakin' Shoes is kind of a special name. But it's like, you know, it's like a mass-produced product kind of name, right? The Sneakin' Shoes, as opposed to, you know, goddess Hannah's slippers of godly silence or whatever, right? It's just they're Sneakin' Shoes. All Might be produced in bulk, but the batch would be split and shipped off to multiple places where it's their specific demand. So let's go back to our stuff, y'all. So sneak and choose what? God, it really does just sound like it really does just sound like a prankster's item rather than anything that would actually be a specialist tool. I don't know, maybe a PI, right? Like a private investigator would like to have something like that. Let's do that. These shoes are very popular among detectives and PIs. No, not like, no, okay, PIs. There we go. Yeah, it just looks like I'm writing piss, but like with a lowercase s. Like the slang version, it's like the slang version of piss. Does piss count as a swear word? Is that a swear? I feel like that one's a gray area one, isn't it? Like, it's like a vulgar one that people are like, ugh, don't say that word, but like, it doesn't get added to like the list of swears, right? Like, I feel like, and maybe this is like a cultural thing, like what town you grew up in or something like that. But I feel like everyone's got like a subset of like 5 or 10 words that are like, those are like the big mama swears. And it's like, oh, you don't say those in front of anyone of authority. You don't do that. You don't do that unless you want a spanking. Anyway, shoes are very popular among detectives and PIs. I don't know, like, put the shoes on and go wherever you want without anyone knowing any different. The bane of the helicopter, helicopter, wow, helicopter parents, existence, right? Because like a teenager could get them, and they could sneak out of the house at midnight and go partying with their friends. Anyway, perfect. Yeah, no, I think that's good as it is. Real simple. Doesn't have to be complicated. Not all these are going to be particularly complicated, but I like it. I have a few players that would absolutely love to have sneak. Who am I kidding? Every player in the world wants a pair of sneaking shoes. Like, I don't know if I've ever had a player that wasn't constantly trying to stealth their way in and out of places. Like, they could be in the middle of a rock concert and they would still want to roll stealth check to sneakily go to the snack counter without anyone noticing, right? Like, every player wants to sneak everywhere. They would love these. They would love these shoes. You're gonna love my shoes. Anyway, what happens if they're sentient? What happens if this item's sentient? So, okay, let me just refresh my own memory just to make sure I'm there. So, when doing sentience, if the item leans good, it does something extra that's good for the user. If it's evil, it does something extra that's bad for others. If it's lawful, it does something extra that focuses the effect. And if it's chaotic, it's something extra that broadens the effect. I think this is actually going to be a pretty easy one to figure this stuff out. So good, something extra for the wearer. We'll say the item is very attentive and likes is very attentive. Let's say this. The item is very attentive to its surroundings. It will we'll say alert the wearer to any other dangers they may not be seeing. Gives gives the wearer advantage on stealth checks on top of the bonus, as though they would actually need advantage on a +10 bonus. But you never know. You roll a 1, even with a +10, that's pretty garbage, right? If you're trying to sneak past a guard that's just like standing right there, they're gonna see. Like, I always imagine that like failing with pass without a trace is kind of more so just like the person notices that there's this weird like black hole of existence moving across their vision, and they're like, well, Well, I don't know what that is, but I know that's not normal. And they, like, are aware that something's happening, even if they're not exactly sure what it is. But yeah, so, like, that's what, if it's good. If it's evil, has a befuddling effect on others trying to discover the wearer. The wearer. Wait. Got it. Evil has a befuddling effect on others trying to discover the wearer. Anyone using magic to detect the wearer must make checks at disadvantage. Boom, there we go. So that's like that's where, like, the slight difference, like, that's the negative towards others, right? The slight difference, that slight extra bonus if it's sentient, which I really like, because I love the idea of my players having a collection of talking items. Like, the party's doubled in size just because my sword can talk. My sword, his pants, her cloak, and that dude's shirt. It's like, yeah, then, you know, put it all together, we've basically got a whole sentient walking suit of armor. Like the Invisible Man, only there's no man inside. Alright, if it's lawful. If it's lawful. That usually, so lawful I like to do focuses the effect. Is more concerned about the wearer, right? So it's something extra that focuses it. So what my thought is more concerned about the wearer. Plus 12 for the wearer, and only plus 8 for others, right? So it's like, it's not going to do it doesn't care as much about whoever's not wearing it. It really wants to protect the guy who's wearing it. And then chaotic bonus is only, we'll say, plus 8 for all, but the radius, the radius, because it's anyone within 30 feet, and so that's in any direction. So it'd be a diameter of 60, a radius of 30. But the radius is 40 feet. So it's like, it's a little bit more widespread. It's not as powerful, but it's a bit more widespread, right? So it's like, so as benefit, it's just a little, it gets excited. It gets excited and has a hard time focusing. We all have days like that. We all have days like that. I have days like that all the time right now. Because it's not necessarily that I get excited, but I get distracted, right? Because I've got, as I went on that big tangent starting off, I got to fight in less than 10 days, in 9 days, and so naturally that takes over my mind, as evidenced by the fact that here I am talking about it again. God, he just won't shut up about the fact that he's about to get hit in the face a whole lot. He just won't shut up about it. Okay, so hold on before I get rid of that. So now we do, if our players try to imbue this item with this spell, and they end up accidentally cursing it, which can happen. It's a very unlikely event for all of these things, but I love the idea that there's a chance. There's a chance to just accidentally make a cursed item. And my favorite part about it, too, is my plan always for that. Like, basically, figuring out, hi, kitty. Just passing through? Passing through to prove that you still exist? Okay. She's in a bit of a mood today. She's a sweetheart. I love my cat dearly. She also drives me insane. I know. Hi, kitty. You're gonna put your little beehole right on my escape key like you always do? Is that your favorite? It's your favorite. Let's just put it right there. Just right on there. No decorum. No decorum. Anyway, the chance of something being sentient or being cursed is really unlikely. Like, basically what I do is I just, like, a lot of times, like, I'll just kind of wing it, but I'll take into account the idea of, like, okay, our players, you know, what kind of skill does the player who's trying to do this imbibement have, right? Because I allow anyone to do it. Like, imbuing things, as long as they're willing to, like, you know, maybe do a couple extra downtime activities of getting a book and studying how to imbue this particular spell onto an item or something like that, right? So that it takes a bit more work for them to achieve it. I'll let anyone do it, but the idea is they do that, and like if it's a barbarian trying to imbue an item with magic, they don't know what they're doing. And so the chance of it accidentally being made sentient or cursed just kind of goes up, right? Or if they're really, really skilled at this kind of stuff, then it goes down and all that kind of stuff. But the best part about it is that when I make that roll, I'll make that in secret, right? So they don't necessarily know right away. Like if it's, if it's sentient, they're probably going to know pretty quick once the thing talks to them. But if it's cursed, I like the idea of if it's cursed, they won't know for a little bit, basically until they try to take the item off. And that's when they'll realize like, oh no. And I don't know. I love it. I think it's a fun little addition. And my players seem to agree, so I just kind of keep going with it. Like, hey, if they're happy, I'm happy, right? So if it's cursed, it gets an extra powerful benefit. So I'm going to say the bonus is plus 15. And then the problematic side effect, though. So my initial thought is that it goes like the item just kind of arbitrarily chooses how long it's going to last, right? So it's like the item, it kind of has a will of its own. It's not exactly sentient, but it has a will of its own. There goes the kitty. Yep, you're gonna snuggle up in your bed. That's a good spot for you. I know. It's a good spot for you, and it's a good way for you to get used to the microphone arm, because I know the microphone arm freaks you out, but it's not going anywhere because the mic's not going anywhere. So you can just stay right there. Oh, are we coming into the lap? Oh, okay. Well, I know, darling. Okay. Well, never mind. Never mind. I don't know what's going on. We're just excitable. Pickle those cats are. But yeah, so my thought with this one for the problematic side effect is that it just kind of has a will of its own. And it just kind of chooses how long it wants to last. And so my thought is, we'll just say is inconsistent with how long it lasts. And so my thought is, it would be like, I think it would be fun to roll a D100, right? And it's like, you take whatever you roll, and then you multiply it by like 5 or something, right? And that's how many minutes it lasts. So it could last up to 500 minutes, which, what's 500 divided by 60? Well, 600 by 60 would be 10 hours. So that's something like 8 hours, right? So it could last like 8 hours. Or you could roll a 1 and it would last 5 minutes. You don't know. That's the chance you're taking. And I think what's fun about that is either extreme can be a problem. Because I think the other part of the curse is that you cannot actively choose to deactivate it, right? The baseline is like, you speak the command word, the thing activates, and then either it wears off in the allotted amount of time, or you deactivate it and the effect is done. But I really like the idea of the player not being able to actively choose when or how it ends. And I just think it'd be hilarious, because the other thing about it is, again, that is 100% a secret DM roll. And it's like, okay, and you just roll it, and it's like, good to know. And like, one, that's fun because of course it's going to make the players panic, right? You're going to roll, you're going to be like, yeah, I'm using this item. Okay. And then you could just like smile and look at them and be like, roll. And then look down, see what it is, smile and nod, and then never adjust it again. And just watch them as they're like, just pooping their pants going, but why'd you roll that? Why'd you roll that? Did you know how you rolled that? And just watch like the realization dawn on them when, 15 minutes later, they reappear in the middle of a bunch of baddies because they thought they had an hour. I like it. But then the other thing about it too is, again, because you can't choose, if you accidentally activate that thing for, 5 hours, then suddenly you're in a situation where you're like, you've got to, like, no one can detect you, right? Like, the idea for that one for me is, no matter how long it is, you are in that void and no one can detect you, right? Like, you can try and make someone notice you, and I suppose it wouldn't be that hard, but it's like if you're trying to have a conversation with people or something like that, they don't know where you are and they can't have that conversation with you. And so now that's something that you have to deal with, especially if you end up in a situation like you end up in combat and you're trying to coordinate with your teammates or something, right? So, of course, maybe that's a benefit. You never know. You never know. It just, the important part is it sows more chaos into the game. It makes things a little bit more wacky and off the wall. And if you've ever watched me talk about D&D, oh, that's my favorite. Oh, that's my favorite. The more insane things are when it comes to like actual dice rolling and mechanics, oh, that's my favorite. When you know, you got meteors raining from the sky and like 15 summoned owls flying around attacking an army of 18, you know, kobolds, everyone running around, you know, someone's been possessed and is trying to attack their teammates. You know, meanwhile, there's this one patch over here that's got grease and this other patch over here that has entangling vines. Oh, I'm in heaven. I'm in heaven the more crazy and insane things are. So anything that sows chaos in these games, oh, I'm all about it. I love it. I love it. I don't care how difficult it is to keep track of everything as a DM. If it's in the name of watching everything just go up in flames, I'm in it. I'm in it. So, yes, is inconsistent with how long it lasts. When activated, DM rolls 1d100 and multiplies the result by 5. That is the number of minutes the effect takes place over. Cannot be dispelled early. And then what it takes to remove. So it always takes magic to remove. So it's always must be removed magically if the user, if the wearer tries to remove, it will self-cast, and make it impossible for the wearer to interact with anyone for the duration, right? So it's like if you try to get rid of it, it's just gonna cast it on you, like on its own. It'll just do it, which is kind of a minor consequence, but I feel like that would be enough that people would want to get rid of this item, you know, like in general. But then the flip side is the risk. I feel like the reward for some people might outweigh the risk, right? So that plus 15, like, especially if they're trying to keep someone in particular safe who's got really notoriously bad stealth or something like that, they might really want to be able to use this item and keep that person close to get that plus 15. And they're willing to take that risk of being like, oh, well, you know, I mean, when you do the math, it doesn't need to be particularly high to get at least that 1 hour of time, right? It's like you got to get a 12 or higher to get your full amount of time. So it's like, okay, you know, that might be worth it, and it might feel like a really good thing. Until then, it's been, you know, 5 hours and you can't go get food because you can't talk to anyone because you're invisible and you're just creating this void, you know. Or then you end up, that's when you roll a 2 and you're like, oh, great, you know. But then again, the flip side too is they won't know. The DM knows. So we'll say DM rolls D100. We'll say suggest this roll is hidden and multiplies the result by 5. Perfect. It's perfection. It's just absolutely perfection right there. I love it. And yeah. And it'll self-cast. And they'll be stuck. They'll be stuck invisible for the duration. Oh, I love it. I think that's a good one. I like that one. I did a really good job with that. Pat myself on the back for that one. Hey, you know, it's important to recognize our own victories and be proud of ourselves for the things we accomplish. Big or small though they may be. You know, we've all got our own definition of success, and it's not wrong for us to enjoy that. that success when we find it. All right. Okay, I'm going to just really quickly run to the bathroom and refill my beverage. We're gonna keep working on some more, but now that we're at a quick little pause, my bladder bag there is screaming at me. So I'm gonna run take care of that real quick, and I'll be right back. I'll just leave you guys right here with the music. It'll just be a minute. I appreciate your patience. Thank you. There we go. That is a big improvement on the situation. Thank you for your patience. I always appreciate it. I mean, who am I kidding? I always appreciate all y'all's. Y'all are cool people. I appreciate you always. All right. So yeah, let's just do more. Let's do more imbibements, man. This project, I'm telling you, man, this is turning into one of my favorite projects. To just like sit here and just kind of work on it. It's fun. It's creative. It's little bite-sized chunks, so you can do exactly as much as you have time for. It's fun. It's fun. Plus, like, it's a practical thing. I can then take all this stuff and use it in my games, and it's just fun. Just fun. I like these types of things, these types of projects. Like, I think the other thing about it, too, is this project really satisfies the checklist maker in me, right? I'm a big checklist kind of guy. Like, you know, I play a video game, it's like, make a checklist of all the things to collect, all the collectibles or whatever. They make a checklist of them, and it's like, to me, that's what counts as beating a game. Not just, like, going through and finding the story, but also collecting all the cool things there are to collect. You know, and it's how I get a whole ton of stuff out of a game. You know, it's how I pack a suitcase. I make a big checklist, and it feels satisfying to just, like, put everything in one at a time until it's all checked off. So it's like, I feel like this project really kind of... It really just hits that button just right for me. It really does, and I enjoy it. So let's do protection from poison. Touch a creature. If it is poisoned, you neutralize the poison. If more than one poison affects the target, you neutralize one poison that you know is present, or you neutralize one at random. For the duration, the target has advantage on saving throws against being poisoned, and it has resistance to poison damage. Okay. Okay, so protection from poison. Yeah, so let's go ahead and just get our basics in here first. Protection from poison. And I feel like this one actually can really go on any item. Because I think the way it works is that it's just going to be, you know, you place the you touch the target with the item. Right? Instead of you as the caster doing it, it's just like whatever the item is, you do it. Right? So it's like you could do a glove of protection of poison, right? Like I love the idea of someone having a glove that they like imbue with a ton of different healing spells, right? And it's like maybe using like touching with the thumb, right? Or using, you know, the index finger and the thumb, right? Or the thumb and the pinky, right? Like you can use different, you know, like different you know, finger combinations or whatever. It's like sometimes it's with the palm and the thumb or whatever, right? You use that to invoke different healing things. You just have like this one super awesome, you know, emergency medicine glove that you can use. You know, it's got a bunch of charges you can use once per day. I think that would be a really cool item. But yeah, I think this one could go on anything. I mean, in theory, you could have a sword, a protection from poison, right? And it'd actually be kind of funny, where it's like you use the sword and you attack someone, but then you also make them immune to poison, so that way they can't accidentally die. You know, if you need to question them afterwards or something like that. Like, you could do all kinds of fun flavor stuff with it. So I'm just going to go ahead and have this one be on any item. And then let's just kind of clean this up a little bit because we don't need all of this. And then let's go ahead and get our spell as written. And then we can go ahead and start to massage the language a little bit so that it fits what we're looking for. Clear that up. This, bullet point it, format, done. Okay, on any item, you touch a creature. So we'll say once per day. Be a comma there. You touch a creature and speak the command word. I pretty much, like, if someone wants to, again, like, if they come up with something creative, like, oh, like, you know, it's on this glove, and when you use, like, you know, like, these two fingers or whatever, right, to touch with it, that causes it. Like, it can be anything. It's just, I like to make it so that there's some sort of intentional thing about it. Although I do think it would be really funny if it was just like, you know, the first other creature that you touch with the glove, it happens, right? It's like, it would have that Tobey Maguire Spider-Man effect where it's like, he just sort of like accidentally does this, which, first off, who accidentally does this when they're just sitting there like when they're bored? Who accidentally does that? But regardless, just set that aside. When he like accidentally starts webbing people all over the cafeteria or whatever, like, that cracks me up. And so, like, I would love to see someone do that. Like, they've got a sword of fire, right? And they're like, and if it were just automatically does that the first time you draw the sword for the day or whatever. So it's like, hey, can someone cut down these vines? And like, the person draws their sword and suddenly causes a forest fire because they get just automatically did fire. As funny as I think that would be, I feel like that would be a little too much chaos, and it would really discourage players from wanting to do that. So we give them the opportunity to choose when it happens once per day. And I say command word, but that is 100% something that I would 100% let someone flavor it how they wanted to. Right? If they had a sword with multiple different, you know, bonuses or effects on it, like it's got like one ability to do fire damage, or at one point it can do, you know, ice damage, and, you know, or another time it'll do poison, depending on, you know, how they use it. If they want to do a command word, they can do it. If each one is like connected to a gem that they, you know, change their grip so they're pressing a specific gem, you know, that invokes it, like, yeah, do that. If it's like they have to do a specific style of strike, like they're doing, you know, like doing some sort of form, you know, like a karate form, but with their sword or whatever, to invoke it on the next one, like 100%. You know, they're like, I'm going to do my tiger stance with it. It's like, and that activates, you know, like extra bleed damage or something. 100%, whatever they want. But I would just say command word, just because that's like the baseline. You know, it's like you say the spell, like you sit there and you're like, abracadabra, and it like causes whatever thing you want it to cause. I don't know. Once per day, you touch a creature, we'll say with the item, and speak the command word. If, I just don't like the way that's written. If the, we'll say the target, if the target is poisoned, you neutralize the poison. If more than one poison afflicts the target, you neutralize one poison that you know is present, or you neutralize one at random. For the duration, the target has advantage on saving throws against being poisoned, and it has resistance to poison damage. I think that's perfect. The one thing I'm going to change, I'm just going to double check here. Our duration is 1 hour. 1 hour. So we'll say for 1 hour. Just for clarity. 1 hour, the target has advantage on saving throws against being poisoned. Great. All right. So if it's good, well, first let's just make our standard item. And my immediate thought is I want to call it. I just like my first thought is that like it's like a glove or something, or even better, it's like. Okay, so here's a couple steps of creativity that, but my thought is, it would be really cool if you had a player, if I had a player, like I would love that. If I were a player using the system, this is what I would work with my DM to try and figure out how to make. I would want to be, assuming I was like a cleric that wanted to make a healing item, I would want to make a magically imbued, like, hypodermic needle. Right? A magically imbued needle that the way it works is as long as I remember to, like, it only works once per day, but when or rather, like I don't know, like I would be open to works once per day or any chance I get. If I fill it with water, right? With pure clean water. So I have to be able to find a source of water. It has to be fresh water. I can't just like use it from a canteen. If I fill it with fresh water, right? That water can then, depending on what I can imbue that needle with a whole bunch of different healing effects. And so it's like at any point, I can just like stick someone with a needle, say whatever the specific command word is, and do that healing thing to them. And I just have like this magical needle that just like has a bunch of treatments in it, right? And it's like you just give them a shot and they're better. Like that's what I would think would be an awesome item. How's it going, Hast? I'm doing good. How are you doing? Hopefully things are going well for you. But that's what my first thought is, but that's a little more complicated than just being like a specialty item. Like this is definitely a specialty item that would go in like a healer's shop, you know, like a healer's place of business. And so my first thought is that it would be like the healer would just have something specific, like, you know, a specific glove that they could then put on, you know, and like heal. Like a healer would just have a glove, again, kind of like a glove that could be imbued with multiple things. But like if you're just buying things, you know, you could go to a specialty store and buy the glove of poison control or something like that. And that's what I'm gonna call it, poison control glove. And we'll say popular among emergency healers and medics. This glove can be used to quickly stop poisoned patients from getting worse while other ailments are assessed, right? So it's like if someone comes in and they're like in real bad way, you know, they've got something that's like infected or whatever, they've got like you know, they're poisoned, doctor can quickly shove on one of these gloves, you know, and like heal. And I like to imagine that a medical practice, you know, like a healer would invest in having a handful of those, right? So they can have a couple charges per day, right? Because you only get one charge per day with those gloves. So it's like they have a couple of them sitting on a shelf, and they're like, "Oh, we got two people bitten by the same snake. Let's get them both healed up," you know. And they go and they take care of it. That's what my first thought is for that thing. I like it. Nice. Putting finishing touches on a one shot. I feel that. Also, nice playing D&D this Saturday. That's sweet. It's always a good day when you get to play D&D. You know what I mean? Like, it's always a good day. Tower of the Teeth is its name? That sounds terrifying immediately. I love it. That sounds very... Like, my immediate thought is... And this is just an aesthetic that I like. My immediate thought is like... You know that style of horror that's like the 80s rubber suit style? You know, like The Thing? You know, or like Alien? Where it's... Or Predator? Where it's all these like rubber suits that just have this very Cronenberg look to them. That's immediately what I think of with that title. Is just like a tower that's like made of teeth, and like all the doorways are mouths that like might try and chew you or something like that. That's what I immediately think of, and I immediately think of some sort of like, you know, 80s labyrinth style, you know, rubber suit phantasmagoria of horror, right? Like that's what I immediately think. Not too far away. All right, fair enough. Good guess then. I'll take it. The title's cool. I dig it. All right, so let's see here. Oh, okay, what do you got? And so magical vortex, pink flashes, lightning. And they see a circle of druids. Oh my god! Holy crap! You're writing a whole big thing for me here. All right, time for summon. It was. Huh, interesting. All right. I dig the setup. I dig it. I'm sure your players are going to love it, and that's the important part. As long as the players love it, then everything else is just, it's just, you know, that's what we do to get there. So I'm into it. I feel it. All right, let's see here. So now if our glove or our healing item is sentient. With healing items, I always just imagine them like it changes, like the big thing is it changes the mood and the tone of how it goes, which then just changes like how it feels to get healed with it. So like if it's good, my first thought is that like, oh, it's like when it heals you, it's like grandma healing you, right? And so grandma, like, not only does it heal the poison, but it like, you know, it also gives you a piece of chocolate, right? Or it gives you a cup of hot chocolate, and it wraps you in a blanket and it says they're there, right? And it's like somehow that offers a little extra healing or something. So like, if it's sentient, so if it's good, so again, you know, and like with good, I always try to have it be something good for the user, and then if it's evil, it's something bad for others, right? So it's like, because I don't want an evil item to just be something that they'll throw away. You know, I don't want that to happen. I want the evil item to be a dick that still adds amusement to the game, you know, so the player will still use it because there's like benefits, but it does something that's kind of dickish to someone else, right? So like if it's good, that one's easy. If it's good, is very gentle and concerned about the target. Also, so we'll say also provides target with 1d4 healing. So it'll also give you just a little bit of healing. It's like, you know, again, it's like grandma, like gives you a little, it gives the boo-boo a little kiss to make it better, right? You know, it's like that kind of thing. So if it's evil, like I almost want it. Oh crap, you got more. Man, oh man, you got a whole thing going on here. Who's gonna get them into about enemy skeleton? Gold dragon. Holy crap, that is gonna be a massive one shot. That's gonna be an all-day thing at that point in time. That sounds like an epic battle at the end, no doubt about that. Alright, let's see here. If it's evil, how does healing poison, how do you add a negative effect to others on top of that? I almost feel like what I want to do with that here, this is what I want to do. It's not so much that it's evil necessarily, but we'll say that the sentient one, like, believes in sacrifice and trade off. We'll say user takes 1d4 poison damage in order to heal the injured target. So it's like that's kind of a weird one, because usually it's like a negative impact on others, right? It's to make it a beneficial thing. Usually I like that to be like a negative impact on the you know, on the enemies in the area or something like that. But I think in this situation, just to kind of keep with that idea, but also keep true to how this spell would work, I think that's the big thing. Is it's like it doesn't this item, like, because, and it's not because it is incapable of healing without doing damage, but it doesn't believe like this item, it's almost just like a crotchety, you know, holier than thou type of thing. Like, there must be a trade-off, otherwise things will be out of balance. And that's just its own philosophy, is kind of what my thought is for it. So I like that. I think that works. Nice. Let's That sounds like I kind of like that idea. It's like it sounds like someone's preparing the skeletons to make them as evil as possible, right? It's like someone's like, oh no, this is part of like it's like if you're making a table and it's like, well, you got to cure the wood to make it waterproof, right? It's like I'm making an army of skeletons, but you got to make them pearly white, otherwise it doesn't have the same effect. So, all right, if it's lawful, we try to focus the impact here. I think what my thought is here, 30 HP is damage. HP is 25. And gain HP or heal. Get healed. You need to heal more than 3 HP. If it were a baseline healing thing, I would be into it. If that were the baseline, I think the only thing stopping me from doing that is this doesn't actually as a baseline heal HP. I offered that as like a bonus thing, but in general for a healing item, I kind of like that idea, right? That trade-off where it's like if you do it too much, right? Like just in general, like the idea of overcharging an item, and then like if you don't utilize that power that's charged up, then like you get blowback impact or something like that. I like that idea. I don't know that it fits for this item though, just because its protection from poison is really what's going on. But I like where your head's at. I like where your head's at. I feel like for this one, so it's like usually for law. So again, for lawful, I try to have it be a more focused and slightly more powerful impact. So my thought is that my thought is we'll heal we'll heal up to 2 types of poison, but only offers resistance to those same types of poison, right? So it's like if you're in that situation where there's going to be potentially multiple poisons impacting you. Actually, you know what? I don't like that though. I don't like that though, because what are the odds that there's going to be like 5 different types of poisons in a single battle? So I'm going to change that a little bit. So here's what I'm going to do. Offers 1d6. Well, let's keep it 1d4. Offers 1d4 healing. Well, let's make it a bit more powerful. 1d6 healing. Since we've already set the baseline that 1d4 healing isn't too much, right? Without a drawback. So if we're gonna have a drawback for it because it's lawful, let's say it offers 1d6 healing. It offers 1d6 healing to the target, but poison resistance is only to the same type of poison that was removed, right? So it's like if there are a couple different types in the area, you know, and like I like to imagine that too, like especially like if we're gonna use gray areas like that, you could have it be almost like, you know, oh, if there's like a poisonous snake as well as, you know, like poisonous spiders in the area, right? Like those are different types of things, right? So it's like, oh shoot, you got 2 bites. Well, let's remove one of them, but you're only immune to that one, you know. Or it's like even if you only get one of them, it's like, okay, you've got resistance, but it's only to snakes, so you're there. Why is Automod getting mad at the word snake and bite? Automod's been going crazy lately. Automod has been off the rails as of late. Like it's getting to the point where I'm like, I'd almost rather ditch out on Automod. It's been getting weird with the things that it won't allow. It's been getting real weird. Because I know people have used the word bite in chat before. So I don't know why it's acting up lately. Automod taking the law into its own hands at this point. A little psycho that thing is. Alright, anyway, and then if it's chaotic, I think my idea with chaotic is will cure any and all types of poison in the target, but does not offer resistance. So it's like the thing gets really excited and it's like, oh yeah, I can handle all of this, and it does that, but then it depletes its own magic and it doesn't have enough left to like offer you any resistances or anything. That's what I think chaotic is. I think that one's easy. I think that was easy to figure out, and I don't think we needed to add anything else. So I think that's great. Now if it's cursed, if it's a cursed item. So this one, I think, so for this one, I really want to go for what the evil one is. Zora Level Star, thank you for the follow. I appreciate you being here. Glad you're having a good time. So yeah, for the extra powerful benefit, I think I want to double down, triple down, quadruple down, right, on this evil one where it's like, using sacrifice and trade-off, user takes 1d4 of poison damage, right? I wanna up the ante on that for the cursed item. I think the cursed item, so the extra powerful benefit will be removes all poison in the target of every type, and offers, let's say, and offers resistance to all of those poisons. So it's like it's gonna do all of that. What are we working on here? We're working on, so this is a project that I've, like, it's a homebrew rule that I use in my games that my players have been big fans of. It's basically inventing runes that can be put on items from all of the spells that are in, you know, the 5th edition D&D spellbook, right? So it's like the idea is to make it so that you can take any spell and imbue the power on an item, right? As long as players are willing to take the time and spend the resources to do it, they can do that. And the idea is to make it so that way, rather than just like giving them the generic, yeah, you get a +1 sword of sorting, right? You know, or a +1 shield of not dying, right? Instead of doing the generics like that, I offer up players runes that they can then, like, if they want to, they can try and seek out a specific one if they want to have a specific impact on their weapon or armor or whatever. Or they can, if they find one out in the wild, they can then take that and just sort of like cobble together what other specialty items they want to make. So it's like that way, and it's like, and the idea is like the big reason that I did it, that I started doing this project, is because I always thought it was such a shame to offer players replacement items, especially when they've designed their character to be a specific thing and have specific items, right? Like I always felt bad when it was like, in order to let a player get better, you know, they had to eventually sacrifice their grandfather's shield that's been handed down for generations now. It's like, what a lame thing to just be like, well, Grandpa, I appreciate your super amazing silver shield that you handed down, but I just found this +1 buckler of rotting wood, and that's gonna be my shield now, so see you later Grandpa's shield, and they just ditch it. So it's like, this way they can improve their items in the ways they want, and the idea is that rather than finding legendary items, they're the ones making their legendary items, and it just makes it a bit more fun, so that way they can sort of have that flavor that they want, and then they can make exactly what they want, and it's really fun. It's really fun. Yeah, it gives players the power to really kind of create what they want. And as I always say, you know, when they start getting wild and crazy with the runes and stuff that they want to add to their items, all the better for me as the DM, because there's nothing that makes me happier as a DM than to have a battlefield be as chaotic as possible. The more chaos, the better, right? Like, I've loved, in the game that I'm running, I've loved the past couple combats, because they've been climbing a cliff, right? So on these like narrow ledges with narrow things, and this cliff is inhabited by a lot of very territorial hawks. So they're in the middle of these battles with these hawks that are dive bombing them while they're trying to keep their balance on a cliff. Meanwhile, one player is like trying to do psychological warfare by like scooping up the eggs from these hawks and damaging them, as opposed to just like killing the hawks, while another guy is trying to invoke the nearby giant lizards to like attack the hawks as well, right, and mix them in. And it's just pure pandemonium. It's pure pandemonium, and I could not love it more. It makes me so happy. It makes me so happy to see them doing whatever crazy random bullshit they want to do. So it's like this thing just, it really plays into that obsession of mine. So it's good for all around. Everyone wins. Everyone wins. So, oh man, look at you getting all Latin with the scientific names on the snakes and everything. That's fun stuff. Fun stuff. Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And that's why, I don't know. Like, I have a lot of philosophies on how to make games memorable that I invoke. But yeah, like that's 100%. Like that's why for me, like I'm very loose about like reskinning creatures, and I will go ahead and like I would much rather go for flavor than just like strictly following stats on stuff, right? It's like I will happily reskin those goblins to be wacky things that are happening in wacky locations. So catch you later, Haas. Glad you stopped by. Glad you had a good time. Thanks for being here. But yeah, like I'm a big fan of trying to just make things different and make things, add just like a diverse set of locations and enemies and stuff for players to encounter. And that's why I'll happily reskin monsters and stuff like that to make them fit what I need. So it's like the different hawks and stuff like that. They weren't strictly speaking within the rules as written. They didn't really belong in the setting that I put them in, because it was like a coastal one, and so it's like it would mostly just be seagulls around there. But it's like, hey, we'll reskin it and we'll just say that they're like sea hawks or something. I don't know, like, yeah, and they're just there just because like they made such a memorable place for them to hang out in, and it's just so much fun. And it's like it's the same with this whole project, right? It just makes their items more memorable, as opposed to like, oh yeah, I get a +1 to my attack roll now for a sword that within the theater of the mind is exactly the same as everything else. It's like, no. Instead, they found a rune that can make it so that their sword can occasionally, glow red hot and cause fire damage. It's like, that's so much cooler. That is so much cooler. So much cooler. Hast, you're blowing me up here, man. I thought you said you were going. Got some real poetic stuff going on. Oh, nice. Okay, song lyrics. I'll have to go back and check those out at some point. That's cool. It's really cool to see where people get inspiration. Like, I think I get inspiration from all kinds of cool places. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so with this one, so the cursed item moves all poison in the target of every type. All poisons. We'll say all poisons in the target. I'm just gonna say all poisons in the target. It implies that and offers resistance to all of those poisons. We'll say the user must make put it. I don't know if you're part of the Discord, Haas, but you should put it in the Discord. You should put it in the Discord. That'd be perfect. That'd be perfect. So that way it doesn't like disappear with chat. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Zoro. If you reskin things, you're absolutely right. It makes it easier, because you're right. Like, it's not. That happens a lot where players will non-maliciously, like they're not trying to cause problems or be power gamers or anything like that. But they, you learn patterns, and it's like, oh, this, that, and the other thing happens, and so like sometimes that's good, and other times that's not good. And so for me, like, there's a balance to strike. And a lot of times, too, what reskinning will do is I'll reskin something so that it matches up with something else. Perfect. Thanks, Haas. I'll make sure and get you approved when I get the chance later today. But yeah, like one thing that I'll do also is it's kind of the flip side too, where it's like if I want them to slowly be learning about the enemies they're facing and getting better to eventually have like a big boss. So like, let's say a big boss is, I don't know, like one particular type. It's like a big giant slime or something like that, right? And it's like, I don't want to just have 8 million of the same slimes. I'll find creatures that have similar resistances and attacks and abilities and stuff like that, and I'll reskin them to then look like slimes, even though mechanically they're not slimes. And that way it's like there's a bit of a variety, but it's still all kind of the same stuff, so they can kind of get the idea like, oh, we're in a slime dungeon, we should be ready to handle this kind of stuff, right? So it kind of offers both opportunities there for them to be able to sort of learn as they go within a specific dungeon. So it's like reskinning is one of my favorite things to do, and I think it tends to be an underutilized type of thing. Because like the other thing about reskinning too is it just adds diversity, like you say. So it's not all just goblins, right? Because there's only so many things that a party of level 1 adventurers can handle. So if you just mix up how they look, and at the very least makes the theater of the mind a lot more exciting, right? So yeah, I'm with you 100%. Nice, corrupted forest monsters. I like it. I like it. Yeah, using like the plant creatures and stuff like that. Oh yeah, taking stuff from like old editions and like other games and stuff too. Yeah, 100%, 100%. That's always a fun one. I have a small collection of like the original, Dungeons and Dragons and like advanced Dungeons and Dragons books and stuff like that. I love looking through those to get different ideas, because just the headspace that the world was in was so different back in those days, right? Like back in those 70s and 80s time periods. Like fantasy and sci-fi was a very different thing back in those days. So it's like there's so many ideas that like I'm not conditioned to think of, because I live in like this current modern iteration of what fantasy and sci-fi look like, which are it's so different. It's so different than back in those days. So like I love taking stuff like that. Oh yeah, well, like that's the thing though. It's just that the tropes were very different. Like they had very different tropes, but that's what makes it so wonderful, because like just things change. Let's see here. Sure, go ahead, Haas. That's fine. But yeah, no, it's I don't know. It's I inspiration can come from anywhere, and reskinning is a really good way to use that inspiration, even if mechanically there's not an exact one-to-one comparison, right? And like again, that's kind of what this project is all about for me too. It's like, there isn't a one-to-one comparison about trying to make protection from poison into an item. But if we just do some like tweaking of things and just kind of reflavor the rule system a little bit, then we can create a pretty well balanced thing, right? Because we've got like we know that the spell itself is a balanced thing, and if we make it just like a once per day thing on an item, that's not too bad. Especially when you can have multiple wizards that can do it multiple times throughout a day. That's not bad. And it just, I don't know, that's to me what makes D&D fun. If you want to play something 100% by the rules without any changes or anything like that, like, first off, if that's how you play, that's your bag, and no problem with it. But for me, it's always like, if I wanted that, I would just, I'll just sit down and I'll play some like Dark Souls or something, right? Because Dark Souls is unyielding. The rules are what the rules are, and there's no changing that, right? And so it's like, if that's the experience you want, then hey, that's right there. But the beauty of doing tabletops is that we can use our incredibly complex and varied human brains to mix things up and make the exact experience we want. And it's I don't know, it's a fun time. Use that creativity. Make things as wild and wacky as you can come up with. I'm a huge proponent of the zany changes that people make. All right, catch you later, Haas. Thanks for stopping by. So for this cursed item, removes all poisons in the target, offers resistances to all those poisons. We'll say the user must make a Constitution save for each poison being removed. For each failure, user takes 1d6 poison damage. And it's like, so that's like the trade-off. It's like, if someone's like super duper poisoned, it's like, okay, are we willing to take this? If there's not a whole lot going on, then, you can use it. And so it's like, what's fun about this is I can see this turning into an item. Like, it's a very, like, the risk matches the reward, right? So it's like, I can see a player being like, oh yeah, no, I'm 100% willing to use this if someone just is like poisoned in one way. But if something happens and a player is poisoned in like 3 ways or something like that, I can definitely see someone being like, we're not going to be able to take a long rest for a long time. If this puts me down, you guys are without a healer, and so then it becomes like, is it worth the risk? Is it worth the risk to do it? And that's what I really like trying to do with the cursed items. I really like trying to set up a situation where there is something bad about it, but not so bad that the player will just completely disregard the item and never use it. Like, I really want them to still want to use that item. That's what my hope is always. So I think that's good. I think that's good. I mean, we could probably even up that a little bit, just like up the ante for a little bit, but I'm going to leave it as is. Because the other thing about all these homebrew things that we're doing right now is it's homebrew. We can change it again anytime we want. So if I'm using this and I just decide like, nah, that's just not enough punishment. Up it to a D10. You know, it's like, I can do that. Whatever. It's my game. I can do what I want. And that's when he went mad with power. All right. Now, the other thing about it, too, with these cursed items, must be removed with magic. We'll say if player tries to remove, they are automatically poisoned by the glove. For each attempt to remove, they will be impacted with another layer of poisoning of a different type. Boom, there we go. So it's like, if you leave it alone, it's fine, right? Like, but that, like, it necessitates that you keep that glove on. It necessitates that you keep it on. So it's like, that gets in the way of if you wanted to wear another glove or something like that. So it's like, if you've only got that one glove, it's like, okay, great, whatever. But then all of a sudden, if you find other gauntlets of like plus 8 million to attack, and you're like, oh no, right? And you can't take this glove off and it won't fit. Oh no. Well, now what do I do? Better find a way to magically remove it. Planning to release this document at some point in time. You know, I've been asked that by a lot of people. This and like the campaigns and stuff that I make, to the point that I'm getting pretty close to being convinced that I should do it. Hey, Gabby, how's it going? Good to see you. I'm getting pretty close to being convinced I should do it. The hard part is formatting it, because I'm writing all this stuff just in OneNote, and there's not really a good way to distribute OneNotes. I mean, you can share notebooks, you know, so it's like I could just do it that way, but I feel like that's not a popular enough. What am I trying to say? Medium. Like, it would do much better in a PDF, you know, but then making it a PDF would require a lot of reformatting of things. So I'm open to the idea 100%. But it's a project that will have to happen when I got a bit more time in my life than I have right now. But enough people have asked me about releasing some of this stuff that I'm getting pretty close to being convinced to do it. So, you know, keep bothering me about it, and eventually I'll cave and do it. I mean, with the campaign that I'm writing, my intent is always to, at some point in time, like, release it. And I actually kind of want to release it in little chunks, like little modules, so people can take, like, the part designed, like the dungeon, the chapter designed for level 6s. So if they want to just use that as a little micro campaign for level 6, or a little component within theirs, they can just take that one little part. So it's like, I do have ideas on doing it. It's just a matter of making the time and doing it. So I'm glad you appreciate the pun, Gabby. And man, the number of times a day I look at someone and go, do it, is absurd. Yeah, that's a good point. I can just find some templates that people have already, you know, why reinvent the wheel and all that stuff. That's not a bad point. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, I'll have to look into it. It probably, I can tell you for sure, it ain't gonna happen in the next like 2 weeks. I've got a fight in 9 days, and that's kind of got all of my attention right now. Like, training and being prepared for that. That's kind of the only thing rattling around up in the noggin at this point in time. But yeah, no. Once that little checklist item for the year is taken care of, I'll look into it. How much do I have to cut? Not much more at this point in time. My walking weight is, I'm most comfortable walking at 165. Lately, I've been walking at 160, and this is just a smoker. I only have to cut down to 155 for it, so it's not that bad. It's really not that bad of a cut. The trick is trying to not cut down to the point Like, I'm trying to find the balance of, like, I don't, because it's same day weigh-ins. So I don't want it all to just be like a water cut, because then I'll just be weak when I have to get in there, because it's the same day. It's like I weigh in and then like 2 hours later I'm fighting. So it's like I've still been cutting down because I want my walking weight to be down to like 157, 158. So yeah, it hasn't been too bad. It hasn't been too bad. But I am really ready to be done so I can just eat freely again. I am really tired of having to watch my diet as tightly as I have been. So, I'm sorry to hear that, Gabby. That sucks. That sucks. I was sick a couple weeks ago, which was really not fun training, getting ready for a fight. Like being sick and having to try and figure out how to like balance recovery versus still training. Like I'm lucky it happened a couple weeks ago and not immediately. And that's going to be like one of my biggest fears next week. It's like, okay, don't get sick. For the love of God, don't get sick. Don't go anywhere. Don't just like hide inside in a bubble. Don't get a cold. Don't get anything. Oh, nice. Powerlifting. I tried to get into powerlifting and my body just does not handle powerlifting well. Body just does not have, Gabby, I hope you're in bed. Holy cow. I hope you're in bed resting up. Yeah. 2 hours, like 2 hour weigh in if you're doing water cut is rough. Like my thought is as long as I'm down to like 157 walking weight or something like that, just, don't have anything to drink in the morning. Maybe sit in a hot bathtub for a minute or two, sweat off a little bit, and maybe even overshoot a little bit. So that way I can be sipping on some stuff on the car ride over to the weigh-ins and stuff like that. Weigh in, drink some Pedialyte, and then just warm up. So it shouldn't be a big deal. It should be just fine. I'm really not actually that worked up about the fight in general. It's just like trying to keep the head space in the right place so that I'm not too stressed out, but also not too at ease, because you don't want to be too relaxed about it. So, well, geez, Gabby, then drink more. Drink some Pedialyte. Pedialyte's great when you're sick. Yeah, Pedialyte's amazing. Absolutely amazing stuff. I noticed that Gatorade started releasing a line of beverages that's like meant to be like the Gatorade version of like they call it like Gatorlight or something like that, and it's like no different than regular Gatorade. It's just a different bottle and it costs more. And I'm like, you're not Pedialyte, get out of here. I'm in a pretty good mindset about it. I feel pretty ready for it. Like I say, it's a smoker, so it's not, in the first place, it's not gonna be anything too particularly intense. Like it's not like big fight night stadium of 2,000 people or whatever. It's like it's a gym that opens up the doors and anyone who wants to come in and throw down can do it, right? Like I signed up ahead of time to make sure I had a matchup, and that was it. So it's like it's not a big deal. 6 minutes of hell and then I'm done. It's not big 5-minute rounds. It's just Muay Thai, so it's not like I have to learn like wrestling and worry about getting choked out or anything like that. It's a smoker, so there'll be, we'll be wearing the big heavy gloves, the 16 ouncers, wearing shin pads, probably headgear. That one's a bit more up in the air, but usually you see headgear at those too. So it's just like, shell up in 6 minutes of hell and then you're free. So I don't know. I feel pretty good about it. And mostly I'm just excited about being able to eat again. Like that's a big thing. I'm going to like make sure I know where the nearest burger joint is as soon as I'm done. And I'm going to go and I'm going to fucking eat. And it's going to be amazing. Yeah, Gatorade is like fine and all for just like a post-workout type of thing. But like when you're really trying to make sure that you're like that you're balanced and ready to go for a competition, it just doesn't cut it. It just doesn't cut it. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. The one thing Gatorade does have going for it is it's got all kinds of flavors. So whatever flavor you're into, Gatorade's got you covered. Throwing up from nerves. That's not surprising. I think that happens to a lot of people. I think the other thing that's helping me is like I've been training martial arts for over a decade of my life. So it's like, yes, it's nerve-wracking to step in the ring and be willing to face combat, but I've gone through enough hard spars. I've had enough training partners that, some that are really, really easy in sparring, some that just absolutely beat you to a pulp in sparring. I train with, some of the guys at my gym are only amateur, but like amateur belt holders and stuff like that. And I've just been so engrossed in it for so long that it just, I don't know, it's just part of life. That's just what it is. So yeah, I don't know. I feel good about it. I feel good about it. And the other thing too is like I've trained hard enough that I know what the adrenaline dump feels like. So I know exactly what that's going to feel like when it happens, and I know how to like push myself through it. And that's like one of the biggest things. That's one of the biggest things. Oh yeah, if you'd only been training for like 12 months. Yeah, that can be intense. That can be intense. Like if you're still like really new to the scene in general. Yeah, like I've taken trips to train at different places and stuff like that, and you know, I've gone to gyms where they spar real hard and everything, and it just, I don't know. It's just part of the sport. I'm just there for the ride. And like I say, the other thing about it for me is 6 minutes of hell. It's 6 minutes of hell. I can shell up. I can shell up and survive for 6 minutes. It's not fun. It's not fun, but if I'm completely outclassed, I can just shell up and survive for 6 minutes. And then I'm good. And then I'm good. That's all. So it'll be good. It'll be a really good experience. I'm actually more excited to see, because we got a few other people there fighting too. I'm actually kind of more excited to watch my teammates fight. Like that'll be really fun. See how they do. So it's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a good time. But yeah, that's only a few days away. Well, more than a few days away. It's 9 days away. 9 days away. So I'm at the point where I kind of just wish it were this weekend. Like I wish I could just go there and do it. I'm kind of like, yeah, you know, I've been training as well as I can. I don't know, I'm as prepared as I can be for it. So let's not draw it out. Let's just go do it. Let's just go get it done with, man. Like, why are we sitting around waiting? You know, I can top off the gas tank with a few more rounds of sprints at this point in time, but it's not like at this stage I'm going to learn and internalize an entirely different set of moves that are going to make me so much better in the fight. It's like, nah, I know what I'm going to know. We'll get some extra practice and top off the gas tank, make sure my 1-2 is nice and crisp, and you know, other than that, it's like, yeah, let's just go for it. Let's just go get it done. Let's just get it done. I think the other thing that helps me too is I'm not doing this to try and be a professional fighter, right? Like I do this because I love the sport. And really I love training. Fighting for me is kind of neither here nor there. Like I'm doing this for the sake of getting the experience in, not because I'm trying to build a record. So if I go in there and get outclassed for 6 minutes, my attitude is kind of like, well, that sucked. All right, on to the next thing. So that's you know. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Those joints be nice and healthy. Oh my gosh, that's like one of the most, the hips. I need the hips to be nice. You know, doing Muay Thai kickboxing. Got to get those hips nice and healthy and loose. Yeah, that's the best part about like this coming week. Actually, I feel like this coming week is gonna help me feel even more relaxed because, like at this point in time, I'm pretty much done with hard sparring to prep, right? So it's like I don't even know if I'm gonna bother going to sparring because like, you know, sure, like there's that part of your brain that wants to be all anxious and like, oh no, we should get the extra practice and we should make sure we go do that. But it's like, man, if I get myself all dinged up right before, like a week before the fight, and I go in there with all kinds of fresh bruises, like those are visible. When I'm just in those Muay Thai shorts, right? When I just got those shorts on and no shirt, like you're gonna see where those bruises are, and they're gonna aim for those. So I'm kind of at the point now where it's kind of like, let's just get some intense pad workouts, some bag workouts, get some sprints in there, try and get myself to the point of throwing up, and then, you know, do 2 or 3 more rounds of work and just top off the gas tank. You know, it's like this week is almost easy. It's like, yeah, we're not sparring hard. I don't got to worry about accidentally getting bumped in the head or anything. We're gonna be just keeping me healthy for one more week, and then off we go. And then off we go. It'll be good stuff. It'll be good stuff. Boy, oh boy, you guys got me going. You should have known. You didn't know, but you'll remember. Once you get me talking about Muay Thai and martial arts, like, oh, like everything's off. Everything else is just like gone. No more talking about anything else. I love talking about that stuff. It's a real big part of my life. Martial arts is. But the flip side of it is, anyone ever wants to talk about it, boy, oh boy, it is not hard to get me on board with that conversation. Fun stuff. What time is it? 24. Oh, yeah. No, I feel you there. like fitness is super duper important to me. Like it's because I've been extremely overweight in my life. You know, when I was in high school at 5'10", I weighed over 220 pounds. And I was just super unhappy and super depressed. And like, that's when I got into martial arts. And like martial arts, like really turned my life around in a lot of ways. And it like really helped me learn that I am happier when I am involved in physical activity, when I'm doing, you know, stuff that pushes me. And it you know, and it's become just such an important part of my life. And like, I feel you. I feel like, you know, like, you know, there's not huge crossover between people who are super into fitness and also people who are super into like D&D and world building and DMing and stuff like that. Like the Venn diagram has a small center to it, you know? And that's fine. There's nothing, you know, it's neither here nor there, but I feel you. I feel you. Like in a lot of ways, I oftentimes feel like my life is just like a couple different compartments, right? There's my D&D compartment, and then there's my kickboxing compartment, right? And they almost never interact, right? Like none of my D&D players and friends within that circle, you know, understand at all what I'm talking about when I go on about like fitness and, you know, why I do sprints in the morning and why I train martial arts and stuff like that. And then the flip side is I go to the gym and none of them know a damn thing about D&D. They're always like, isn't that the one Nerd Wizard game? It's like, well, yeah, it is. And I love it. So no, I'm with you. It's fun to find people that can kind of connect on both levels at the same time, because it's not a common pairing of hobbies, right? They tend to be just different worlds. So when you get other people that can kind of cross them over, it's like it's fun stuff. It's good stuff. So, okay, I'm looking at the time. It's just a smidge early. But given that we're kind of at a good point, because we finished off this last one that we were working on here, I'm gonna take a break, just a short one. See that masculinity? Every man needs a warrior art and work component. Hey, you know what? I've never heard that, but I'm gonna look it up because I'm 100% on board with that. I'm 100% on board with that, and I think that's absolutely true. People need creative outlets, people need productive outlets, and people need like fitness outlets, right? And it's the same concept. So I'm 100% on board with that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break, just rest my voice a little bit. It'll be like a 10-15 minute break. Just to you know, make sure that I can actually, you know, go another 2 hours here. And when I come back, we're going to switch over and do some gaming. Normally I have like my schedule of games that I'm playing, but because I'm 100% in, do what I need to do to distract and keep myself nice and chill, exactly for the reasons we were just talking about with the fight. I'm gonna throw an audible and I'm gonna play some more Elden Ring today is what I think I want to do. Cause boy oh boy, I'm obsessed with that game. I love that game. So I'm gonna take a break. We're gonna come back and we'll do Elden Ring. Let me switch this over here. So if you want to stick around, and talk like video game nerd stuff on top of also fitness type of stuff, then, you know, stick around and I'll happily keep the conversation going. You know, or if you're just here for the D&D stuff, I get it too. And if that's the case and you want to know when the next time you can see me, tomorrow's Friday. I should be streaming tomorrow. I stream I do my best, depending, as long as like work and other things don't get in the way. I do my best to stream every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time zone. That's when we start doing our D&D stuff. And then 1:30 p.m. Eastern time zone. That's when we switch over and we start doing the video gaming stuff. So that's my usual schedule. I should be here tomorrow. Next week, I'll keep everyone posted. The week before my fight, and then actually probably the week after that fight, I'm going to be sporadic. I'm going to give myself permission to just do what I need to do to focus on the goal at hand the week beforehand. And the week after, it's going to be all celebration. And if I want to celebrate by, you know, taking the day off and sleeping in real late, I'm going to do that. Or if I'm taking the day off, you know, and just going out and eating a big giant friggin' lunch, which I don't normally eat lunch at all, I'm going to do it, right? So the next couple weeks are going to be a little sporadic. But I should be back tomorrow. So if you want to see more writing, you can come check me out tomorrow. Or alternatively, you can go check out my YouTube channel where I put all of the VODs. So you can go back, look at the backlog and see all kinds of other things that I've worked on writing beforehand. So you got all those opportunities there. If you want to stay connected, I've got a Discord server. You can find all the links to all of these social media stuff in my About page. Or if you're watching the YouTube VOD, then look in the description below. But I got my Discord. You can stay connected there. I put announcements there. I got my Twitter. I share stupid thoughts and announcements there. And then I also have my Instagram, which if you're really into like my fitness type stuff, Instagram's a good place. I like to post a lot of like, training clips of myself, as well as actually I'm really into rock climbing too. So I put up a lot of rock climbing clips and stuff like that too. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you can follow me there. But those are the places you can find me. Those are the times you can find me coming up. And yeah, that's all I got. So like I say, if you want to stick around. I'll leave you here with a little bit of music. At a certain point, there's going to be a little hiccup, a little burp, a little pause in the stream, just so I can switch everything over for the sake of the VODs. But then I'll be back, and we're going to do some Elden Ring. So if you want to stick around, then boy, oh boy, you are 100% welcome. Or if you got other stuff to do, I get it, man. Life is busy. You gotta prioritize stuff. I appreciate you stopping by for any amount of time. I appreciate you guys stopping by. I appreciate each and every one of you. I have a blast doing this type of stuff, and I don't know, it's the people hanging out and chat and watching and all that kind of stuff that makes it fun and worthwhile. Otherwise, I just quietly do stuff alone and never talk to anyone and be a recluse. So, all right, so I'm gonna take a quick break. Yeah, you guys sit tight. I'll catch you on the flip side. And yeah, we'll see you shortly.